Alright, hi guys. There has been some desire to have me start making videos, so I figured I'm about ready to start doing that. I had this commission for a Cardinal that I felt like it would be a good place to start, so that is the intent today. I'm going to try to make this piece of wood into a Cardinal with a wood lathe. Most people make bowls or table legs or any number of other perfectly round things on this machine. I make animals. So it provides a very unique visual quality to my sculptural work. I kind of try to make, I am a woodworker, but I come at it from the angle of a sculptor. So please bear with these videos as I start and kind of get my footing under me as I show you what I do. I'm going to put on a face shield. It may make it a little bit hard for you guys to hear me, so I'm probably not going to talk a whole lot as I make this. Also, just to say, for any of you that are thinking, well, so you're saying that you do sculpture and you want to see what it looks like, just check out DerekWeidman.com and you can see, you can actually see like finished pieces, or you know, my Facebook is fine too, Derek Weidman. It's just, if you guys are curious to actually see the end result before I actually see what it is and how it is that I make it, there might be some benefit to that. But, you know, as you wish. So right now I'm just roughing out a profile. It is going to take it a little bit until it gets actually cardinal-ish. This wood is holly. You can see how white it is. It's a really tight-grained wood, so it makes it, when you're cutting across the grain in multiple different directions, which multi-axis insists that you do. If you don't know what multi-axis is, don't worry about it. It's just the process that I use to shape this with. But so I'm going to be cutting across the grain in all different directions, and you need something very tight-grained so things don't like rip out and blow out as that happens. And holly just happens to be, it's so tight-grained that it's almost like plastic. So it's like perfectly homogeneous, so it's perfect for this kind of process. And it's white, so it takes color really well as well. Okay, so this profile, I'm just going to continue dropping down, so the actual cut starts wrapping all the way around this front surface. I still have a ways to go to get down to where I want to go, but it's developing. We're developing this profile, and we're just going to continue dropping it down. You can see, like, here there's this flat spot, and there's just things that are not quite where we want it to be. Once we finish this particular profile and we move on to another one, this part is kind of left as is. The way I like to describe this process is almost as if you are looking up at, like, you're cloud gazing, and instead of just saying, hey, that looks like a dog, you say, hey, that part kind of looks like a dog, and I'm going to move this cloud a little bit over here, make it a little bit more dog-like. That's very much how this process is. It's not like I'm dictating every single aspect of it. I'm just I'm trying to visualize it, and as I see something that is close to what I want, I let, like, once there is a part or an aspect of this that gets cardinal-ish, I leave it, and then I move to another part of the piece. So we're going to be doing that. The thing that I do not have whenever I start any given piece is like a cut order. This is very much me taking this machine that cuts in circles and building up all of these circular cuts on the fly. It's not like I know, okay, you make this cut and then this cut and this cut, and all of a sudden you have a cardinal. It's very much not that. It's me kind of responding to the work and saying, okay, this part that is not cardinal-like has to go. This part that is cardinal-like has to stay, and it's building up in that way. So, it's actually kind of important when you're doing multi-axis work. It's a little bit different, not so much on this axis, but still somewhat important. A lot of times, say if you're used to traditional turning, and you're making a bowl or a table leg or something that's, a single axis, whether the machine is on or off, you can gather almost, other than when it's like all the way around, you can gather almost all the information on your shape just from looking at it. Whether it's spinning or it's not spinning, the information is kind of the same. As you start building up axes on this, your ability to gain all the information while the machine is running becomes impossible. You're kind of shaping blindly, so you have to end up stopping and taking a look kind of regularly. This part, not so much. This is just me being kind of fussy. But as I start building up axes, you do have to kind of, not necessarily make a leap of faith, but you're making an educated guess about what it is exactly that you're cutting. Obviously, having done this now for over a decade, I have a pretty good sense of what it is that I'm removing and what it is that I'm leaving, but there's still many, many happy accidents. And actually, I feel like a lot of times the accidents, if you control them right, actually are the most exciting aspects of the work. My opinion on that sort of thing is, when you set a target and say, okay, this is what I'm aiming at, and this is everything that I want to achieve, and this is a perfect concept, and then you hit that, that's fine. Your likelihood of hitting that target is unlikely as far as an artist is concerned, but perhaps you do. But the thing that I find the most interesting is when you stay open-eyed in pursuit of something somewhat nebulous. Say instead of this one singular mark, it's a direction. When something happens over here and you see it, you can move to that and just say, hey, that's awesome. I really like that. I would have never thought of that. And the cool thing is when there's something that you would have never thought of, it gives you the ability to kind of grow in ways that, at least I know I've grown in ways that I was never clever enough to have. I would not have been clever enough to come up with some of the ideas or decisions in my work that I've ended up leaving there. But if you stay open-eyed, as I said before, and kind of accept that into your work, then those accidents or occurrences that you've decided to, that you found agreeable, they become your vocabulary then into the future. And it's just cool stuff. The key thing about multi-axis work is depending on where you put those centers on the piece of wood, it dictates where you're going to cut. And the simplest rule about multi-axis work is that you essentially put the centers, there are caveats, but you put the centers as far away from whatever it is that you want to cut as possible. And what that will do is it will present the wood to the cutting, your tool and you faster than, so obviously this part is going to cut well before I cut into this part. So it presents the part that I want to get rid of as well as protects the part that I want to keep. And it's really that simple to begin with. Now, after doing it for a number of years, or perhaps you pick up quicker on it, you start getting a little bit more concerned about how tool marks are going across surfaces and that sort of thing. But that is, I feel like if you're interested in multi-axis work, the place to start is just simply how do I get rid of this part, this bit of wood without getting rid of this bit. And playing with that understanding is the perfect place to start, in my opinion. So you really need a modern lathe with in particular a modern tailstock to do this type of work, because this has to hold really tightly, because you have these kind of centers that will actually just, they're called safety centers. Well, this is a safety center. This is just typical live center. But the key is, if you catch, and when you catch, most likely if you're familiar with turning, you know the term catch. It means you essentially cut a little bit more than you should have, and the wood stops in some capacity. This will just let it spin freely, because this is just friction based. There's no like mechanical thing that's holding it there. Provided you use them and you catch, you're not going to have any really big problems. It will just spin freely. It makes it much less dangerous than, say, if it was a drive center or even a step center for that matter. But if there is vibration, and if there is enough vibration, some of these tailstocks, and I'm still kind of neurotic about keeping everything tight, but if this gives, this then will come flying out, and more than likely not out this way or this way, it comes kind of this way. And it's really dangerous. So you just need a good modern lathe that has a good tailstock that kind of keeps everything tight. And then I tighten the hell out of it, and I use wet wood, and what that does is it actually starts driving these centers into the stock. So you have something that they're almost nested in there. So there's nowhere for this stuff to go. There's still kind of a gap right here. I'm going to continue cranking it down until this is almost buried in there. If you already used dry wood, obviously you couldn't do this. It would just start cracking apart. That's pretty good. It's not quite perfect, but it's should be safe. So that, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but that kind of more solid looking center section, that like profile that's kind of inside of this more ghostly section, that's the front profile that is this. So you can see kind of the stock that you want to cut into and the stock that you don't want to cut into. All right, now we're in good shape. Okay, now I'm going to stop and just take a look and see how these axes are interacting. Alright, so that is Well, if you guys can see, it's getting like that. That form is getting. I mean, obviously it's far too wide, and there's there's a lot of detail that needs to get put in there. But we're starting to get what has some resemblance to what a cardinal head is. Little bits at this point make such a big fucking difference. I don't know if you guys saw that on film, but the amount of tolerance of this being a successful cut versus it not being a successful cut was the centers being this much different. Where it was before would have been, this piece would have been trash versus I moved it this much and was fortunate enough to have. It's why at this point I'm turning the lathe off a whole lot and looking, cutting, blah 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 blah. If you don't do that, you're very likely to just cut off a little bit more than you intended to and the piece is shot. So, and I'm not going for perfection, but there is a certain amount of visual symmetry that is required for these pieces to be successful. And if your centers, you're kind of fortunate in a way in that if your centers are aligned, it almost insists you to cut it similarly, provided that you cut the same profile. But if they're not aligned, your ability to get it there, it is indifferent to your whim at that point. Once it is set up, that's it. You have to do it. It's a yes or a no thing at that point. And I was fortunate enough to catch it before this piece said no, it's done.